I am Mariah Cruz, and you're listening to the Spiritual Deep Dives podcast. In this episode, we explore Jesus as a unique avatar who publicly demonstrated the ancient inner mysteries that made the path of spiritual mastery unmistakably clear for humanity. The story of Jesus didn't begin or end with the Gospels. In this podcast series, we venture beyond the familiar pages of Scripture and into the missing years, post-resurrection appearances, and the deeper spiritual truths hidden within his teachings. Drawing from the wisdom of the ascended masters, historical research, and ancient spiritual traditions, we will explore Jesus as a divine man who walked a path of mastery that revealed the true science of spiritual enlightenment and soul liberation. This series was researched and is presented by Joseph and Stephen Macchio, respected lecturers on ancient and modern spiritual teachings and authors of The Orthodox Christian Conspiracy. Be sure and check the show notes for links to the resources mentioned in this episode. So let's dive into episode 13.
Welcome to Uncovering the Spiritual and Historical Life of Jesus. This is episode 13. I'm Stephen Macchio.
Joseph Macchio.
And in our last episode, we were comparing an awful lot between the ancient mysteries of Osiris and Dionysus, the sun Horus, and how it is completely linked to what ultimately Christian Orthodoxy came up with and how they changed the various meanings of the virgin birth and so on.
Yes.
But no, I'd just like to say here that you probably will agree with this.
I hope so. But if I don't, I'll definitely let you know.
That, even though we hear this in the ancient mythologies, they were done behind the scenes. It was historical and mythological. And these things were happening in an inner mystery with inner initiations to a large extent behind closed doors. It was not done in public.
Yes.
And after just a few years or 50, 100 years, things changed immediately and people did not really understand these inner mysteries of what this really meant.
Yes.
Especially what you talked about with the sun coming up in the specific astrological configuration, and all of this was lost. So here comes the great avatar, Jesus.
Yes.
Sent to this planet to not only, again, reestablish the connection of these ancient mysteries, but to actually play them out physically through a physical person who you can see, you can touch, you can talk to. He's not, someone that you can't relate to.
Yes.
And he also comes with special dispensations that were not given to the previous avatars.
That is true.
And, those dispensations, as we touched on before, holding back the 25,800 years or sins of the world of that karma.
Yeah.
Being able to reignite one's threefold flame.
Yes.
Yet he displayed all of those inner mysteries for you to see in the physical world. Now, I don't think that has actually been done before. I think that Jesus' dispensation from the karmic board and the whole retinue that came with him were specifically that you can't miss it. In other words, when Jesus did something, you saw it done.
Yeah.
When he resurrected physically. Right. It wasn't like someone said he resurrected and it's this mythology and it turns into a mythology.
Right.
So,
and the masters have also said that Jesus could have done everything in private if he wished. He could have gone into the pyramid of initiation and gone through the so-called crucifixion, but he chose to do it publicly. And so there would be a record. Where is this record? It actually is in the four Gospels and other texts. But if we didn't have those, you see, how would we know that there's a birth, there's a transfiguration, then there's a crucifixion, then there's a resurrection? And then Paul makes it even clearer, saying, you have to follow this. So that's a good point you're making.
Yeah, and never before. Well, it was understood in the past that you had to follow it, but not to this level.
Not to that level.
It's reiterated over and over again. And Jesus' sayings are very clear that, I'm not doing this. The Father sent me to do it to show you how you are supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of a certain amount of exclusivity there in that sense.
In that sense, there is, because it certainly is a unique mission that Jesus had. It doesn't mean that it's unique, but not exclusive, because, again, this is the path that we see followed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So he did us a great service by enacting, publicly demonstrating, and even the going and rising up in levitation and so forth which we'll be getting to on Bethany's Hill or the Mount of Olives, to show what does an ascension actually look like.
Yes, it's an amazing.
You see, what does it look like? We don't see anything. It's all in the retreats of Serapis. It's in the retreat at Luxor. Nobody sees anything. Aha. Jesus said, I'm going to demonstrate to you. And that's part of what you're basically saying, and we will be returning to that. That theme.
So thank God for the coming in the dispensation of this great avatar, Jesus. So I think we're going to continue here with this controversy regarding the Star of Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. We're going to start that. And the controversy is the fact that all kinds of scholars have been discussing for, centuries, what in heaven's name was the Star of Bethlehem. They also say that the range of the appearance of the star goes somewhere between 7 BC or to 3 BC or 2 BC when it actually appeared. So these various controversies say, with historians and religionists, the star that the Magi saw may have been, quote, a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn or Jupiter and Venus. It may have been an heliacal rising. A heliacal rising is a star or a planet becomes visible in the eastern horizon just before sunrise, and usually that is Sirius that has been seen. Then there is the heliacal rising and a lunar occultation of Jupiter. Don't ask me to explain that. I'm not going to even go there.
I don't even think Google knows that.
I don't think so. Or perhaps a comet or a supernova. Now, these are all the options. If we're looking at this historically, obviously there was something extraordinary. And I'm not saying that, it had to be more extraordinary than we realize. Now, so these are the opinions of the writers on the subject. And you can choose what you would like.
Sure.
We know that the masters and even, the messengers have also stated that the Star of Bethlehem was the causal body of Jesus.
Right.
And we know the color causal body. We've shown that to you. But, I'm wondering, I don't necessarily think that the causal body may have been actually manifested unless maybe one of the wise men was seeing perhaps on the inner.
Yeah, they could have definitely had that attainment. To be able to see on the inner, the causal body, which would have been spherical, of course, and the light of the I Am Presence shining out from all different angles and all different rays would have been quite brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, I would go along with, I tend to believe that it would be more of an inner understanding.
I don't think it was manifested outwardly.
But there's always an outer manifestation, and that's the interesting thing about these things. It's that the alleged, quote, miracle is the timing of things.
Oh, yes.
And that, the karmic board, the spiritual overseers, cosmic beings, and everyone who is involved with this great outplay, this great drama of the coming of Jesus, can you imagine the timing to have everything coordinated to where these conjunctions happen? It's seen physically because it goes along with the physical drama of the whole outplaying of this.
Right.
And there's the star. You can't miss it. And if you do, well, you can always look on the inner and see the causal body.
Right. Or ask to see the causal body, well, what is really happening here? There's a very short excerpt from the Visions of Teresa Newman that I want to talk about in terms of the star. In Nubia, the star had been seen by 2 of the Magi already 3 weeks before the birth of the Savior. They came to the king and told him that they had seen a remarkable star in the sky. It was of extraordinary size and particularly powerful light, and had a very peculiar tail.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Which was long and curved at the end. The king now assembled all his scholars. They could not, however, give him a satisfactory answer, whereupon he sent ambassadors to his friend King Melchior in Arabia in the hope of gaining some further knowledge. Well, this goes on for several pages in detail, which we're not going to actually read.
Right. No, that's very interesting about the tail, because in one sense, it would make sense that it would be a comet, because it would be there and then not there, whereas a configuration would be there for a while. But, the coming of a comet would be extremely bright, way more brighter than a configuration. But who knows? The point is that something happened.
Yeah.
I like that Teresa Newman with the tail.
Now, again, when we read excerpts from Teresa Newman or Catherine Emmerich, we are not necessarily putting, a final stamp of approval on these visions,
right,
by just giving this information to you to make it more interesting, historical, and, they could be accurate in many cases. So we know that the Magi, of course, according to the Bible, visited King Herod and inquired about the birth of the king. So obviously, Jesus, in my understanding, in your understanding actually, was that he was, in fact, the legitimate king of the Jews. Why? Well, his lineage shows him to be a descendant of King David.
Right.
All right. And on Mary's side, he was actually a descendant of the Aaronic priesthood, Aaron, the priesthood of Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Jesus was both a king and a priest. And really, he was a king who never ruled. This is important because why would all of these, where's the king of the Jews? The word got around that there was an actual king.
Right.
Although he did not take the crown in that sense. It was a spiritual mission. Some people think that, because of that, some of the disciples, well, if you're the king, why not? Go for it.
Yeah,
and maybe Judas is someone.
Caiaphas didn't like that idea about having it. No. He would have been enraged. And I think there's ample enough proof that his lineage does go back to David. And there's the threat right away to the Sanhedrin, right? And Caiaphas being the chief priest of the Sanhedrin.
Right.
He's immediately threatened.
Right.
Because he actually has the lead, even though it took Pontius Pilate to place him in his seat because they were occupied, still a challenge from the people. You would have Pontius Pilate would be saying, well, wait a minute, all we want to do here is keep peace. So if the people are saying that we have another king over here, you can imagine how Caiaphas is going to react to that. Doesn't like that at all.
Right.
Among others.
Well, at that time, there was a chief priest. I think it was Annas and Caiaphas was both like cut out of the same cloth. They were both really, of course, again, the threat to King Herod.
Yes.
The threat to Herod. So
too many kings running around.
Too many kings. Why should Herod want? Of course, Herod himself was the king of the Jews. Okay. So the word spread that he was a legitimate king, right? And he could have claimed the throne. That's the thing. So we know what happened when Herod heard this. It was called the slaughter of the innocents. So the masters have verified that the slaughter of the innocents did take place. Now, a lot of scholars say it never took place. There's no evidence Herod wouldn't have done this. It's too horrible. The Akashic records state that it did take place when Herod found out that a prophesied king had been born. But, of course, this is a typical tactic, of the fallen ones to get rid of the light bearers, and especially in Avatar. So we know that there was a tremendous amount of celebration, and then we'll get to this next part here, where I'm quoting Mary. There was a tremendous amount of celebration in the heavens with the shepherds, and people had inner vision, and there was so many Essenes. People had inner vision in those days, which they no longer have today because everything was more purified.
Yeah.
Food, everything, air. They also, many of the Jews, many of them were very, very, very spiritual. So they were able to see things and see the angels celebrating. And then all of a sudden the Magi show up. And obviously they had a whole retinue, according to Theresa Newman, and not just 3 people. They must have made a tremendous impression among the people. So now this is a very nice hymn that I found regarding the birth. It says, he is born, oh come and adore him. Ancestors ye of the star of the morning, women and men, oh come and adore him. Child who is born in the night. He is born, oh come and adore him. Stars never resting, stars never setting. Worship the child of God's own begetting. Heaven and earth, oh come and adore him. Bow down before him, kneel down before him. Worship, adore him. Fall down before him. God who is born in the night. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining.
Right.
This is a very lovely hymn, a very ancient hymn to the birth of Osiris.
Oh, my. Oh, my. You just sprung that on everybody, just like that.
I sprung that on everybody.
That was written towards Osiris.
Yes, that was a hymn to Osiris, which his birth and resurrection was celebrated. We have the birth and resurrection, or the birth of Jesus celebrated. We have wise men. We have angels singing. We have shepherds coming saying, we saw this vision. So the celebration of the birth of Osiris is the celebration of birth of the universal Christ.
So I could sing that at Christmas time and no one would be any the wiser.
Yeah, well,
the words are almost identical. Would you cut something out of it?
Well, certainly I cut something out. Dwellers in Duat. D-U-A-T was an Egyptian term for the higher planes. Duat, D-U-A-T. So if I said that, it would be a dead giveaway because what's a Duat?
Right.
This can't be to Jesus. It has to be somebody else.
Right.
So I'm only giving you the words, but you see, holy night. The stars are brightly shining. There's shining stars. See, it's all planned.
Right.
It's the universal mind, the universal Christ, the universal avatar, whether it's Osiris,
right,
Jesus, or us.
Right. And it's a very special time when an avatar incarnates.
And Mother Mary has also said that, or maybe it's Archangel Gabriel said, that he actually announces the birth of souls on this earth, on the inner.
Anyone, you're saying?
Anyone.
Right. Right. Because they're all, as long as you have that threefold flame, that divine spark, you are a potential son of God.
Yeah. So that's the hymn to Osiris.
That's amazing. That's good.
That's fascinating. Good. So we're talking about the slaughter of the holy innocents.
Yeah.
And we have a dictation that was given by Mother Mary on December 24th, 1980. And she said, "Today, those henchmen of Herod have reincarnated as scientists and doctors, and those who are the demonstrators for women's rights to abort the Holy Child. Was not this, then, this very act of Herod, an act of wrath of hell itself, not a satanic rite? Was it not a satanic rite,
right.
she's saying?
Right.
Can you imagine the absence of consolation to the women of Israel? Can you imagine the spilling of the blood of the holy innocents, blessed hearts? It is present in this hour in far, far greater numbers, as you know. Blessed hearts of the light. Therefore realize that Joseph and I were surely trained to understand that these dangers of the fallen ones, even the fallen angels, would be present because the prior incarnations, even of these holy innocents who were slain, even of the children of Israel, did not meet up to the expectations of the karmic board, who had assigned to them through Moses and through Joshua even the authority of the word for the calling forth of the judgment of the fallen ones. Now, what she's saying here,
this is a very important point,
is that the holy innocents were incarnated previously during the time of Moses and Joshua, and they had an assignment to use the authority of the spoken word, and they had an assignment to judge the fallen ones, which is new information because many of us think, well, there's no science of the spoken word in the ancient times of Moses, but there must have been. There must have been a way and a science taught by Moses, but it wasn't used by this particular group. So, quote, therefore, it was a condition of karma that these children of Israel who had been disobedient in the hour of Moses and in the hour of Joshua should now come under the sword of Herod's henchmen. For they themselves had failed to take up the science of the spoken word and even the sword itself, failing to understand the great teaching of the Lord Krishna and of the understanding of the dharma of the warfare of Sanat Kumara, the great leader in battle.
That's
Unquote.
a very, very, very important, very important point.
Yeah.
And here we go again with the concept that is sometimes hard to understand and wrap your head around, but there is no injustice in the universe. Yet there is free will, and at the same time, there is ability to stop atrocities, yet at the same time, it's a karmic outplay. So thank God for re-embodiment, because if there wasn't re-embodiment, then you can never come back and right a wrong. But this is also a typical tactic of the fallen ones to go after the light bearers, even if there's only one incarnation of an avatar. So can you imagine what happens when there are thousands upon thousands of the sons of God coming into carnation? What would those reincarnated doctors and scientists come up with in order to have more of a mass but acceptable slaughter of the alleged holy innocents? Now, this is not to say that anyone who is under that situation and may have died through these methodologies means that they have some karma somewhere. Perhaps the parents do. Perhaps the child is coming in to expose, look what's going on here, and they volunteer to do these things. You also have to put that into this, that there's voluntary souls that will come in and go through these horrific situations and then just re-embody again. And they do that to wake up the people.
And it's also a judgment upon those who destroyed them.
Right. I mean, you have to literally
meaning the ones who know what they do.
Right. When the fallen ones literally act out the act, it is worse for them. And many times the karmic board then can take huge portions of their misuse of energy and take it away from them.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say they have 70% of their original energy left. When they do these kinds of acts, they can use 20, 30, or 40% immediately.
Yeah.
And their power source, it goes down.
Yes.
So, it's a hard thing to hear, but at the same time, it ultimately all works out in the end.
Yeah, it does. As
because
you say,
of re-embodiment.
There was no injustice in the universe.
Right.
The innocents here were vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because of the prior acts of disobedience and refusal to defend themselves.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's an amazing, it's always a point counterpoint.
Yeah.
An action and a reaction.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the problem with free will, even though it's good, but it's a different kind of a free will where rather than going with the intuition of the inner Christ, you make an outer free will consciousness. That's not necessarily your own God divine will, but it's that human will, and it can get you into trouble.
Yeah.
That's why I've been here for so long. Millions of years have gone by, and I'm still, look at this. I'm sitting here reading papers and acting like a, yeah. All right, let's continue.
Acting like a what? Acting like a, go ahead,
I'm not going to finish that sentence at all. All right, now we're going to go from here is Luke's account.
Certainly.
Oh, I know. I got the same.
Oh, yeah.
Luke's account that Joseph was warned in a dream to take the child to flee to Egypt. And
Yes.
This takes a tremendous attunement, even though it's done in dreams. Again, it's that whole concept of you may have practiced this. You are a son of God. You have a balanced threefold flame. You have attunement. Yet, in a dream, you're told again what to do. You see, they're always watching out for you. And you're not alone in this situation, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, no, that's true. You're never alone.
So you can continue with the length of their stay in Egypt has been debated also in a dictation of how long they get out of there. They know to get out of there.
Yeah.
But now how long do they stay in Egypt? And I think I'll take this part where Mary then comments again.
Yeah.
And this is another dictation by Mother Mary.
It's actually the same dictation that we previously mentioned.
So she continues in regards to, well, how long did they stay there?
Well, she doesn't really address that here, but we will get to that.
Okay. So I'll stay, so this short little quote says, quote, "Understand then that now that you are maturing as wise sons of God, you also understand the fear of the Lord, capital Lord, that came upon Joseph and me, not out of fear of the fallen ones or of Herod himself, but out of fear of the Lord Sodom Gomorrah and his angels, and the recognition that a holy war must be waged in heaven and ultimately on earth, and that we must take the holy child out of harm's way until the resolution of cycles." Now that's a very interesting concept, that fear of the Lord is not a fear that you're afraid of him. And that's many times misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw out there that many times when you see in the Bible the word Lord all in capital letters, it is many times referring to the name Yud He Vav He, which is Hebrew.
Yes.
Which comes down to four letters. If you take all those four words, Yud He Vav He, and then that's translated to Lord in all capitals.
Yeah.
And it's always, almost always, referring to Sodom Gomorrah.
Yes, I am that I am.
Right.
Sodom Gomorrah.
Very, very interesting concept here. So that's an interesting point there. Taking the holy child out of harm's way.
Yeah, and she's talking about, they recognized that there's a holy war, and the war in heaven, of course, was waged by Archangel Michael, and she is not speaking of a physical war. She's not speaking of going out on the battlefield. That was the other dispensation at the time of Joshua and so forth. She's talking about what we have termed the Battle of Armageddon, which is an ongoing battle between light and darkness, but not necessarily light bearers going out and physically having swords and so forth, but we do have the Archangel Michael's sword.
Right.
So there are many traditions in the Greek and Greek Coptic Orthodox churches that give a detailed itinerary of Mary and Joseph and Jesus' journey to Egypt. And I looked up this on the internet. There are also places mentioned in apocryphal texts and pseudo-gospels, some of which are not correct. Some of these locations are Heliopolis, where actually Moses studied, Memphis, and other places in the area of, the Nile Delta.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that there were Jewish settlements in various locations in Egypt. So according to the Casey readings, the family were accompanied by a female Essene.
Interesting.
They didn't go just Joseph and Mary, according to Casey. If you wish to accept that, they had another person with them. They traveled mostly by night and arrived at the place not far from Alexandria in the western part of the Delta. And I think traveling by night here, something that Casey mentioned.
Very interesting.
So Herod dies in March of 4 BC. So Jesus then obviously was born prior to that. It's likely that Jesus' birth took place in the spring of 5 BC and would have been a year old when Herod died in 4 BC.
Mm-hmm.
But according to another account by Catherine Emmerich, the family actually were in Egypt when the slaughter of the innocents took place, and sometimes it's a longer period. With the death of Herod, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus actually returned from Egypt, but some accounts say that the family did not return immediately after Herod's death, but stayed much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And most accounts do claim, that the Holy Family stayed for like 2 years or sometimes more.
Yeah, that makes logical sense. I mean, if you're running away from the slaughter of the innocents, you know what's going on, and there's information coming back to you, I would wait.
Wait until the dust settles.
Yeah, I mean, the average person, they're very logical, common sense thinking people. They're not going to go back right away. And why would you? Why would you have to? They're not trying to get back to anything. Jesus is very young, a couple of years old. And so it makes sense that he would wait.
Yeah. And we did mention that Jesus was born in the spring of 5 BC. And although Catherine Emmerich places his birth at 6 BC, the spring of 5 BC, we're going to stick with 5 BC for the time being. But of course, someone might say, well, why do we have celebration of his birth on December 25th?
Right.
Someone could ask that question.
Oh, I'm asking it.
You're asking.
Everyone out there is probably asking it too. You got December 25th. How long have I been celebrating the birth of Jesus on September 25th? And not just one lifetime. I'm going back lifetimes upon lifetimes.
This is true.
All right.
He's always going back lifetime upon lifetime. But anyway, okay, Mithra, the Mithraic mysteries started in about 250 BC. Mithra was born, this is all symbolic, December 25th, because of what we heard earlier from Annie Besant.
Right.
About, so he was born December 25th. So maybe about 3 centuries, 2.5, 3 centuries after the birth of Christ, the Christians and their leaders said, well, since all of these celebrations are going on in the, quote, pagan world of Mithra especially, we ought to celebrate Jesus' birth to compete with Mithra, because we know that there is a lot of revelry, there's a lot of misqualified energy, there's a lot of rioting, misuse of,
right, like we were saying,
sexual energy.
Yeah, like we were saying before, the mysteries are no longer being followed.
Well,
so in other words, the inner mysteries of what you're just saying, the people that are acting this way, obviously are not aware of the inner mystery behind the birth of Mithra.
That's true.
So it's getting perverted. They're misusing what was once a very deep inner teaching.
Right. Well, this celebration even went on in Rome, and then, but the celebration to Mithra was very secret in the crypts down, when I was in Rome, my wife and I went into the Church of St. Clement in Rome, which was built around, 300. And we went down under the church. And what do we find? A crypt to an inner sanctum to the Mithraic mysteries. And there was a gate, and you couldn't go right in, but you could see the whole thing. It was a cave-like structure. Of course, Jesus was born in a cave, right? But anyway, it's another. A cave-like structure, and the initiates would sit on either side of the mysteries of Mithra. Basically, it was for the soldiers. In that particular mystery religion, the women were not involved, but they were involved in other, just as equally, famous, like the mysteries of Isis, even in Rome itself. Right. So you had these, and the iconography of Mithra was the slaying of the bull, but the bull was a good thing. The bull was another symbol, perhaps of Taurus, which was a symbol of the Buddha. And when he slayed the bull, the abundance plants came out. So I'm not going to attempt to interpret. Scholars have racked their brains for centuries to figure out what the Mithraic myth, because there's no texts extant.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We only have iconography, statues, and so forth. So I went in there and looked in there, and it's very typical that many of the churches in Rome, as you know, because you were in Rome, many of the churches in Rome were built over temples to, let's say, Pallas Athena, to Venus. And I said, no, take that away. Now it's Mother Mary. But it's all the same, you see.
Yes.
It's all the same, but a different dispensation. And of course, Mary now, unlike Isis, was also a physical mother that you could identify with. But Isis was so far back, in thousands and thousands of years ago. So the Brotherhood said, well, we now want a representative of a woman who happens to be an archangel embodied.
Right.
Now as being representative of the mother. Mm-hmm. So they took the birth of Jesus, brought it back, and some of the reasons were okay because they were trying to counteract the darkness of the winter solstice. And we still do that today.
Right.
So I just want to throw that out about December 25th.
Yeah, it's been going on a long time.
Now where are we? Tell me where we are before I...
You lost me on that one.
Okay, here we go. I was going to say that the masters have never revealed the details regarding the flight into Egypt. In other words, the length of stay. They never really revealed it.
Right.
So, due to political reasons, the family may have returned to Capernaum in Galilee, not to Bethlehem in Judea, because they weren't really born.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they was born there, but that's where they weren't from there.
Mm-hmm.
Herod's son, Archelaus, was very cruel, and he was reigning over Judea. So they decided, let's go to Galilee, where they originally were from, and not down to Judea. So eventually they settled in the community of the Nazarenes in Galilee, the exact location of which is disputed, despite the fact that, we do have.
Right. So, no, that makes total sense to go, back there with the Nazarene community is thriving there. And, the time has passed, and we're going to be going into another section of the early childhood and early education of Jesus. So I think we'll save that for the next episode, and we'll stop here and continue next time with the early education of Jesus. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
In our next episode, the Machios will answer the question, how did Jesus' early education, from Essene teachings and artisan training in Palestine to initiations in Egypt and studies with the Druids in Britain, shape his mission? Thank you for listening to Spiritual Deep Dives. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you in the next episode.